This is eCommerce Uncensored. Brought to you by Fast Forward Unlimited. We're coming to you fully loaded and exposed with all the strategies and techniques for growing your e-commerce business.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of eCommerce Uncensored. This is episode number 93. My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso.
And today we have our final installment, right, Albert? Installment of our Klaivyo Boston interviews. And in this, I'm pretty excited about this because these guys are interesting guys, man. These were the data science gurus at Klaivyo.
Yeah, that's so funny because they, like, we're talking to him like, yeah, college, where'd you go? He's like, oh yeah, I went to Harvard. He went to Harvard, and the other guy went to Columbia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I went to Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yeah, you'll notice that they talk over, talk over Jason's head. I mean, I understood everything that they were saying.
Yeah, sure you did.
Just because of my higher intelligence level.
Right. But it's pretty cool. They talk, this is the kind of stuff that's pretty, interesting. This whole, we've talked about this before, this whole behavioral analysis prediction stuff. It's like, they predict the likelihood of people or a likelihood of spending for each of your email subscribers, which is pretty insane when you think about it, right? Like, they're coming up with all these algorithms, and that's kind of what this podcast is about. Is like they talk about all these things that they're working on. In Klaivyo, there's this, you can click on the client or the person or the subscriber, whatever the hell it is.
Well,
customer, and it shows you in these graphs and all these different predictions about lifetime value or all that kind of stuff, which is pretty awesome. And
we talk a lot on the podcast about letting the data speak for itself, and we have clients that ask us, well, you think this will work? You think that'll work? Or what's this doing? You'd be like, well, let's just look at the information that we have, the data, and these are the guys that put the system in place that put all this information together for the Klaivyo users to see and use in their campaigns.
Yeah, it's funny because people always think that marketers have all the answers, right? Like, okay, I'm hiring a marketing firm and you're going to make my shitty product sell millions and millions of dollars, right? Unfortunately, that's not really how it works, right? And that's kind of what Kevin was alluding to is no one knows if something's going to work. We have to just test it, right? What we know how to do is, number one, optimize the process, like how to create the process, how to generate more money, how to put the different systems in place to do that. Mm-hmm. But we. I don't know about you, Kevin, but I don't really have a skill that will force people to take their wallet out and pay you for shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So,
we have a client right now that we're working with, and we're always talking about or they're always talking about what's next, and it's all good and new content and everything. But why not look at what you already have and the traffic that's going to your site and how they're behaving and what they're looking at first before you try to reinvent the wheel?
Right, and that kind of ties into this episode because when we talk about predictive analysis, it's not like they're guaranteeing you this stuff is going to happen, but they take all these data points and they come up with their best prediction to what these people are going to spend.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing because if you think about what we just said about us not having all the answers, it's the same thing with them, right? But they're just using science to spit out an algorithm, or they're using an algorithm to spit out data that could happen.
Right.
Right? They're not guaranteeing it either. So it's the same kind of thing, right?
These were good guys too.
They were good guys.
I enjoyed being around them.
They definitely fit the bill. I mean, they definitely were exactly who you would expect. Mm-hmm. To be doing these kind of things. I mean, just sharp guys.
And before we get started, Clayvo is our sponsor, so we always recommend. Excuse me, sorry about that. We always recommend Klaviyo, and you can go over to eCommerce Uncensored e-commerce.com/email, and you can sign up for a free Klaivyo account right away, and you can start using some of these things that we always talk about right away.
Yeah, and then also ecommerceuncensored.com/Facebook, and join our Facebook group.
Yeah.
You can kind of ask some questions. I mean, interact with other people. We have a lot of people asking other people about certain things with Shopify or whatever. It's a pretty cool place to kind of talk.
Yeah, it was funny. We were just talking to Albert this morning about the Facebook group. Somebody had posted something, and he's like, well, should we write back? I was like, no. It's like the community is kind of building, and they're kind of answering each other, and they're getting involved in each other's things. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, well, because first of all, me personally, I don't have experience with every single app that's
of course not.
out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that they're asking, like, hey, is there an app that does this?
Yeah.
What's the best app for that? Oh,
And it's great because some of the other members jump in, and they have experience with it, so it's really cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode with Ezra and who?
Ezra and Eric.
Eric.
They're
right.
the data science geniuses.
Yes.
All right, so we're here now with Ezra Freedman and Eric Silberstein, who are the heads of data science here at Klaivyo. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
for taking time.
I want you to take a few seconds, or however long you want to talk, and just give us a little bit of background about yourselves. Real quick.
You want to start?
Sure.
Ezra, you go.
All right. So, I'm studied mathematics, software engineer, and my favorite thing to do is build software. And joined Klaivyo with Eric, who we've been working closely together for the past 10 years or so, and am working on building out a data science team here at Klaivyo.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep. I'm Eric, and my original background is computer science. I've been writing code since I was in second grade, but then 10 years ago, Ezra and I started working together. We built a company helping pharma companies run big clinical trials. I know that doesn't sound like it has a lot to do with e-commerce, but clinical trials are like the ultimate A/B test. You really, really want to figure out whether a drug works and is effective. And so now we're working together to do data science at Klaviyo.
Awesome. So just so that everybody who's listening is clear, basically all the cool things that are happening at Klaivyo, it starts kind of with you guys, right?
No, absolutely not. No, but we're sort of, the teams that are pulling in all the data through all the integrations, through every email that's sent, every event that comes in through an external system, and are bringing that together in a way that's structured, and really they've sort of been voracious, like really keeping the data available so that way our customers can act on it. And we're taking sort of an approach of looking at that data, looking at statistical models, looking at ways of finding patterns in that data and unlocking it.
So all the cool stuff that happens on Klaivyo starts
It
with,
is cool. It is cool, and
starts
it is
with
fun.
the data. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is do you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like kind of like a new thing here at Klaivyo, right? Like, one thing that's really awesome about your guys' company is you're always trying to think outside the box, right? Like, first you start off as email, right? And you are an email platform, but there's just so many other aspects of what you guys do and how you get it done. And I think that you guys are just like that next evolution, right?
Yeah. I mean, our whole company is a data science company. That's definitely true. I mean, like, we're getting billions and billions of events per month, all the different things that our customers are doing and that their customers are doing. And we let our customers do really sophisticated things. I'd like to target people who made, 2 purchases in the last year and like this product category. I mean, even 10 years ago, nobody could do that stuff. And definitely like an e-commerce startup or even a pretty big e-commerce brand couldn't do it. What's new about the data science stuff that we're bringing to the table is using all those same data, but now doing machine learning and predictive models, so we can help people figure things out that they either would take, a really long time to figure out, by sort of trying to go through the analytics by hand, or you'd never be able to figure out.
Yeah, and why that's important is obviously because you're, as a marketer or someone who's using the platform, right, you want to be able to, I mean, I say this in a, not in a bad way, but you're trying to squeeze as much money out of your customer, the long term, out of your customer. And knowing these things is really what helps you do that, right? Like knowing that Jason buys every Saturday a golf ball, right? Or golf whatever. Like knowing that is just like very powerful, because I mean data really is what the internet has changed, right? Like having different ways to touch your clients or your customers. And we always talk about how like we let the data tell us what to do. Like when somebody hires us, we don't tell them what we should do. We're like, look, let's check out your data. Let's see what the analytics are saying. And then what we'll do is we'll recommend something, right? So you guys are actually even a step further than that. Like you're talking about predictive stuff. Like, you know, this guy has done this and then that is like crazy, right?
But one of the things that we're trying to be very thorough about is, you know, building in ways to validate a model and to be able to look at that model and say, like, is this working from a real, and that's sort of the whole data science term is like, right, you're taking a scientific approach to looking at data. You have a hypothesis, you build a test, you see, you know, did it work, did it not work? And so the first project that we have been working on is in the area of customer lifetime value, predictive customer lifetime value. And with that, there's actually kind of a nice way to do a test, which is you sort of pretend it's 6 months ago. You look at all the data up to that point. You make your model. You make a prediction for the following 6 months, and then you check and you see, like, like this is what we thought would happen. This is what actually happened.
Right.
And we're at a scale where, you know, there's enough data that we can really make a judgment. Is this working?
There's enough, right? Because most brands, what they struggle with is time, right? Like, I can get data over a year, but it's like not enough. Like it's not, I don't get it fast enough, right? Where you guys have all this data from everybody, which you can quickly figure that kind of stuff out, right?
Well, not only the collecting of the data that Klaivyo does so well, it's also the presenting of the data that you guys have a big part in. We spoke about it earlier, and creating an interface that it's not like you don't have to be a programmer to figure out what to do with the data that you're getting. Like Jake had his presentation this morning, and he threw up a screenshot of the new predictive. Predictive
customer lifetime value, CLV.
Yes, but he also talked about the predictive analytics or something like that. So, but it's just there. It's just like, okay, here it is. This is what's going to happen next.
Yeah, we worked really hard on that. We didn't want to just tell you, okay, these are the customers that are likely to churn with but no idea of like why that would be the case. So that thing that you're referring to on the profile page, we're showing you for an individual customer, like looking back, these are all their purchases, and then looking over the next year, this is what we're predicting. But then we show you, like, here's what we would have predicted going back. And you can sort of see, because it starts out maybe green, meaning you're in good shape, and then it goes towards red, meaning we don't think they're likely to purchase again. Now they do purchase, so it goes back to green. So that when you look and you're like, yeah, you know, we're predicting that this person's only going to spend like $10 with us in the next year. Yeah, it sort of makes sense, because if you look at what they spent before and you look at like how likely they are to buy, that's like a reasonable thing. And now, you know, looking at that profile is interesting because it helps you like understand how the thing works. But of course, it only really gets useful when you can aggregate that together, and that's what you can do with our segments. You can say, oh, now let me find the 10,000 people who look like that and do some sort of campaign with them.
Are we ever going to get to a point where you can match that to what they've spent on other websites? I know it's tricky because, but I'm sure, Facebook has done it with their targeting, right? They've scaled that back a little bit now with the trouble they've gotten into, but I'm sure at some point we're going to get to where you can compare that to other data. Am I wrong?
I think I'm looking at sort of aggregate behavior, comparing maybe your company to another company in your space, and in order to sort of, for benchmarking. We've definitely talked to customers who would like to know that. They'd like to know, like, hey, for other fashion retailers, are these open rates good or are they bad, and that sort of thing. But in terms of, like, right now, we can sort of silo each of our customers' data, and there's still so many more insights to get from that that we're not.
You're at the beginning right now.
We if you looked at like Andrew's keynote yesterday and Jake's keynote this morning, you have this really cool visual of like, if I'm a business with like 10 customers, I'll know those customers intimately. And if I'm like an old-fashioned bricks and mortar store and I know the people they walk in, I know their habits, the question is, how do you scale that to millions of customers? we want to allow you to do that so that you as the merchant, you know your customers in the way, in a very personal way based on what they've done with you and how they've interacted with email and things they've purchased in the past. We're not really focused on how do you get information from other sources. That's, companies focus on that, but that's sort of not Andrew's philosophy. We're focused on the information we should have as a merchant because we're dealing with you as our customer.
Right. No, that's, I just thought that there may be some time in the future, and I don't mean right this second, but that you can see behaviors, match them up to your behaviors, and kind of come up with a profile that may or may not predict what happens in the future.
Oh, the profiling app, that's definitely. I mean, the cool thing is if you go into Klaivyo right now and you click through, let's say 20 customers, and you look at the history of activity, your brain can figure out some patterns. You're like, oh yeah, this is a guy where it's I send him emails, he comes and he looks, he tends to look at these types of things, and awesome, he purchased, and that happened again. But you can't do that at the scale of the number of customers you have. You can't do that and figure out the patterns or the clusters across a million customers.
Right.
But the types of things we're working on let you do that.
And that's what computers are good at that.
Right, exactly. Now, this is going to completely off topic, but you guys are in the data. Do you guys see customers, different companies being on do you guys ever see that one customer being on multiple companies' lists? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we try not to look at it.
You don't try to look at that guy.
And our software doesn't make it easy to look at.
I would just be interested in knowing how many people are on multiple lists of different companies. I don't know.
I'll say that's not something we've tried to look at it. Right, and the scale of the data we're working with here, it's hard. It's hard to do it's hard to run, we've had to overcome technical challenges to figure out, we're building now weekly, 10,000 something different models for each of our companies across looking at the purchase history for the entire history of their store. It could be, they could have been in business for 10 years. And so, we're not going beyond that.
Not taking their other purchase behaviors, but just like you said, being able to see or be able to measure your effectiveness against maybe companies that are on your platform in the similar industry can be really helpful. Because for us, we have supplements, we have cosmetics, we have all these different industries that we're trying to market for. And okay, how are these numbers? Well, we think they're good compared to our cosmetic company, but that's not a good analysis of the numbers.
Yeah, it's not.
So I think that kind of thing, seeing that, I think would be really helpful. Yeah,
this is sort of the benchmarking that Ezra was talking about. Yeah, I mean, we used to hit that all the time, even in what we used to do where, just you're working with a customer, they're trying to engage their customers, they get a 10% open rate. Well, nobody knows if that's good or bad. So, yeah.
And it's hard. We always talk about, that's a good point, because we talk about that. We run a lot of Facebook advertising, right? And we have, when we deal with a customer, they only have experience with their, their brand, right? Their Facebook ads. And we have the pleasure, or what's the word? We get to see multiple companies, and we can compare that. And when somebody first starts on Facebook, they don't know what's good and what's bad, right? And that's a very difficult thing when you're trying to measure how well you're doing, right? Because, people don't realize that people that market on Facebook, right? They're looking for 1%, of people to respond, right? They spend millions and millions of dollars, and if they can get 1% of the people to respond, they know what that means in terms of profit. And that's the kind of data I think you guys are also providing these people, right? And you can and that's where the predictive stuff comes. And that stuff to me is fascinating, because taking all these little data points and saying, well, this is what we think is going to happen, and using that in your marketing.
Right. And actually, when I was talking about how we validate our customer lifetime value model by doing that, looking back in time, or pretending it's back in time, that we were able to leverage our scale by, we went through that same process with, I don't know, a couple thousand companies, and looked at in aggregate how did the model perform. So because otherwise you could fool yourself, because you could just run some customer lifetime value model on a small set and think, oh yeah, this is what works, but
completely different.
Right, we were able to see
it's all different. And even product price points, your numbers are going to be dependent on that too. Your open rate, your click rate, how expensive your product is. whether you're going B2B or B2C, all those numbers, you got to kind of like look at that industry as, you know, a whole to get what is good numbers.
Yeah. Or subscription versus
Right.
non-subscription.
Right.
Now, I think this is good for like our listeners because they always see like the front end stuff. They're always like, you know, they see what you guys have spit out, so to speak, or like what the front end is. It's nice to hear what you guys think about on the back end. Now, I know that predictive analysis or whatever you guys call it is like one of the big things that's happening now. Is there anything that you're really excited about, maybe in the future that you can talk about, or maybe you can't talk about? But, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff we're really excited about, and
It seems like that from
yeah,
everybody who's
and one of the
talking,
great
yeah.
things about this conference, we have all these ideas that are like just in the really early stages. And, you know, like for us, there's like maybe two things about an idea. One is, do people care about it? And number two is, does it work? And for a lot of data science stuff, it's not so easy to know if something will work or not. So the cool thing here is every company we've been meeting with here, we're like, oh, we've been showing them like 8 or 9 ideas. Which of these are you interested in? And then we've been asking people, would you be interested in doing small scale experiments with us? So if we have somebody who's really interested in send time optimization or really interested in better product recommendations, we'll be working with them to test to see if we try this model, that model, this other model, could we actually make a difference for your business? And once we find the things that actually make a big difference, we'll be able to roll them out as features for everybody.
And I think something about Klaivyo's customer base, and we're seeing it here, is, right, these are generally, or maybe even almost all of the people we've asked have said, yeah, like I'd like to do that. And that's because these are people who are
crazy stuff.
Innovators and who are, but, you know, you could imagine if you're talking to a corporation and they'd say, oh, well, I'd have to check with my manager, which
Right,
then
right,
they'd
right.
be like, oh, I don't want to get into this.
Well, you got the decision maker here,
Right.
I mean, for the
Yeah.
most part, so
Right.
they can do that. I mean, from our point of view, you know, number one, the more data you have, the better decisions you can make, right? The better ways you can communicate. But it's funny, like from no matter we've been talking to, everybody always says, how can the customer use it? And it's like nice to hear, because I tell people on our podcast, stop using your email platform right now. Just stop and go to Klaivyo, and it will make you money. And I feel comfortable saying that because all of you guys, whether it's the software engineers, whether it's the CEO, whether it's the product directors, regardless who it is, everybody says the same thing. How can I make it better for our customers?
Yeah, and it's, you know, when you're building software, you were talking earlier about like Adobe usability versus other, you know, it's you know, when it works really well to the user, it's just like, oh yeah, this works well. It only works well because somebody like sweated every single little detail. Actually, I think you did the podcast earlier with Alex.
Right.
Was she up here? And like,
Yes.
when we first joined, you know, we had some ideas, but Alex has been spending a really long time chatting with like lots and lots of customers and sweating, you know, she's not shy about telling us like, oh, you know, I don't think this thing's going to work. And did you like get on the phone with 5 customers and talk about this other thing? And did you do a usability test on that? So it's something I think about our culture, which is really cool, is nobody's trying to complete something just to say they completed it.
Right.
Like it's like,
And the product managers every week are on the phone with customers. They're taking detailed notes about the call. They're sharing it with the rest of the team. I mean, it's like one thing I said when we started here, you know, a lot of companies have good ideas, but then they don't actually execute on them.
Right.
But here, it's like they have what a great idea. Let's
do
talk
it.
to a customer every week, but let's write it down and share it on a wiki.
And I told
they actually do it.
Yeah, and I told Jake, I was like, you know, a lot of companies talk to their customers, but you guys seem like you listen, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really easy to say, oh, we talk to our customers every day, and then like on the other end, they're bitching and complaining that their customers is telling them that they don't like this or they don't like that, instead of being like, hey, you know, we heard this 10 times, maybe we should go do something about it, or maybe we heard it once and we should go do something about it. You know, it's like we get the feeling that nothing's ignored, right? Like you actually are like care what people are saying.
Yeah, not just here, not just because we're standing right next to each other. I feel like the customers that you have can reach out to you and say, I think this would be a good idea, or maybe you could fix that. And I think you guys do listen and you put some things
Very
into
accessible.
action.
Yeah, and I think
definitely.
And it's nice for me because I'm like, when I believe in something, I don't like pussyfoot around it. I go do this. Stop what you're doing. And it makes me feel good that I can do that with confidence in you guys.
Well, I'll use this opportunity to say that we do have an email, datascience@klaivyo.com, which goes to our data science team. We look at every message and
What was it again? I
Yeah,
missed it.
because
Data science.
Just data science, one word, DATASCIENCE at Klaivyo.com.
you're gonna get a lot of emails from me.
All right. Yeah.
Do it.
Our it's funny. Our listeners, man, like they really take action, and I wouldn't be surprised if you guys hear from some of them soon. This won't launch till sometime next week, I guess, or maybe the
I
week
don't know,
after.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you like you did that over over a podcast, gave them your emails.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So and I'm glad you guys are really thinking hard about how you can make us more money and our clients more money. No, seriously, because look, let's
and
face
making
it.
it easy. I mean, Jason has more experience with Klaviyo than I do. He worked with it several years ago, and we kind of like stayed away from it for a while. And then when we came back on board, it's like the experience that you have on the platform and the interface itself is just is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think and we speak about our true experiences on this podcast. We won't promote something that we don't actually use and believe in on a regular basis. So it really makes it easy for us with your guys and your team. Make it so easy for us to do that.
How many years ago was it when you last used it? Before
When
you came back to it?
okay, so there's a couple things, right? Back in the day, about let me say 5 years ago, it was very clunky. The automation stuff wasn't very easy. It was very hard to understand how the behavioral stuff work with each other and the drop downs. I don't know if you guys saw the old. It's like it was just different. And then we sat down with a big company who is one of our clients right now, a big cosmetics company, and they're on MailChimp. And
$25 million company.
$25 million company, like using MailChimp, and they're projected to be like $100 million.
Wow.
Like by the end of the year. Huge.
Wow.
And those numbers may not be perfect, but they're big. They just closed with Macy's. They're in Sephora. I mean, they're just a giant, like growing fast. And they're on MailChimp, and I'm like, guys, we got to do something about this. And then I'm like, we have to revisit Klaviyo because that's what I see a company like that on. Yeah, I mean, there are some like enterprise stuff, but Klaviyo just works, easily. A lot of people can jump in there and use it. So and then the other thing was the price point. Like, a lot of people think, MailChimp has screwed it up for a lot of people, right? Like free up to 2,500. Contacts, and everybody's trying to go as low as they can to get people in the door. And Klaviyo, it doesn't really play that price game. It's like, look, this is what we think our product is worth. This is what it costs. Take it or leave it. But I have to say, once I got over that, right, it makes sense. I mean, you launch new features all the time. You're ahead of the curve. The thing just works. It makes you money. And like I tell everybody, when you sign up for Klaviyo, even if it costs you a little bit more money, you're going to make the money on the back end. So just do it. And go to ecommerceuncensored.com/email. It will redirect you to Klaviyo, and you sign up, and they can track where it's coming from. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have something to say.
I was just before when you said about there's some enterprise things. I think is our tagline something like enterprise powered entrepreneurial speed. But
Yeah.
I mean, but it really
That's
is
good.
that. It's like you can get onto it as easily as you get onto MailChimp, but you could do things that not that long ago you pretty much could only do by
Custom stuff, right?
like custom or like really, really big engagement with like a company that would put you into a multi-year contract and have
Right.
consultants working with you.
And
So
we're-
it's something pretty amazing, and it's also enabled by like SaaS. If it weren't for like not just us being SaaS, but all these other things like Shopify being
Right.
SaaS, it wouldn't even be possible.
Right.
So.
And no, we're regularly onboarding, customers with millions of contacts. And it's something. It's not like you need a 2-month roadmap, and then your
And you don't have to
engagement expert is gonna prepare your
Right.
list. It's like
You don't have to fit into this box either. You don't. It's like not just like if you make 100 million, it's good. If you make 5,000 a month, it's good. It's like you kind of can really come in at any level and take advantage of it. And I told Jake, I said, what's interesting is that you're providing these like enterprise features that I don't think a lot of people understand really how it works, but you're providing these enterprise features at like a level that anybody with a store can use, which
Well,
is
there doesn't seem to be a level like the levels of other platforms. Like I have worked with several other platforms, and it seems like, okay, it'd be great to integrate this with Facebook. Oh, well, you got an upgrade to do that. And it's just like, you get it. This is what it is. Put more people into your list. It may cost you a little bit more at that point, but it is what it is. and there's no upgrading that you have to go through every time to get all the features.
Yeah, we're really passionate about it, and we're happy to be here, and we really enjoy all the work you guys, or really appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and it seems like you all really, really like what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting us to be on the
No
podcast.
problem.
This is fun.
I think the event's coming to a close. I guess people will start. I hope the background noise wasn't too distracting for everyone out there, but people started to roll in as we were in the middle of our
we had some
podcast.
technical issues, so
Yeah.
but we got everything straightened out. We appreciate your patience on that, guys, because I know you guys are trying to
And I think just for the record on the technical issues, Jason, you were right. Your
I
theory
was
was
right.
right.
Come
That
on.
solved them. Yeah.
See, no,
Do we have to
you
get
know-
that on record?
Yes, we do. You know why? Because look, these guys, they don't know us from a hole in the wall, okay? In the last 20 minutes, they figured out that you're thick-headed, that you don't listen, and you just can never be wrong.
It's just like because I am most of the time right. When
Yeah,
he gets
okay.
the like the
I know,
little,
it's a tough position
the
to
little
be in.
gleaming
not.
light of rightness,
But look,
he just takes advantage.
You
of
don't
it.
know neither of you guys know us from a hole in the wall, and you picked up on that. I mean, that is impressive, and it makes sense.
But he just sat there and did nothing.
No.
Did you notice that as
Do
well?
you-
And this
and-
is also
No, he
what
was trying
happens
to
on the podcast.
organize the solution.
Exactly.
you know.
See, what they did was they took the data, and then they crunched it up,
Yeah.
and they
that was all happening.
right,
in
and
the
they
background.
predicted that I was going to be right, and they the
Well,
whole
I'm
time.
much more willing to listen to them than I am to you. So it's good
Well,
that they were
see,
here.
this is the problem. If he would just listen to me sometimes, we would get in a lot less trouble. But he doesn't. He's thick-headed.
Anyway.
But
sure
thanks
you
again, guys. We really
Yeah, thank
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Thank you.
This was
Ezra
fun.
Friedman and Eric Silberstein.
Keep
So thank you
building
so
awesome
much.
stuff.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Take
Thanks.
it easy. They were really good guys, man. And I forgot that this episode was the one that we fought about the hardware equipment. Do you remember that?
Oh, this was We probably should have talked about that in the beginning. But
Where we had some technical difficulties with the 4 microphones.
and like in typical Kevin Monell spirit, the thick-headed Kevin Monell, he just can't be wrong. It's impossible for Kevin to be wrong. You don't understand that. He always makes fun of me, but we had a 4th mic set up and it wasn't working with our mixer. And I told him, Kevin, download the software for the mixer. That's not how it works. This is a Mac. You don't understand. My Mac will always work. Don't worry about it. Kevin, download the software. It's not the software. So then those guys, as you just heard,
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, we
Jason Jason was kind of right. I was like, really? Come on. Like, don't say that on
and
air.
then basically, as I said in the podcast, they don't even know us, and they figured out who was right most of the time.
That was funny. They were good guys.
All right, guys, ecommerceuncensored.com/email. Sign up for Klaivyo, ecommerceuncensored.com/Facebook. Join our Facebook group. And I'm jumping in a lot more on this episode because Kevin is tired.
Yeah.
And he's...
We had a little bit of a late night last night.
Right.
We went to a golf outing, Jason and I, yesterday.
You're not operating on all your cylinders today.
Yeah, I'm a little foggy. You're not. You are too.
I'm always on my game.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't matter.
Just a few minutes ago, you said your brain's not working.
It wasn't. I was trying to spell fast forward, and I couldn't spell forward. And what the frig is going?
It's good. Really nice.
All right, later.
So thank you guys so much. It's been episode number 93. As always, you can go over to ecommerceuncensored.com and check us out. We'll talk to you guys real soon.
Later.